fans of Warhammer 40,000 and the upcoming release of 9th edition Indomitus box set, thank you very much for joining me for a video where I'm going to talk about the kerfuffle around the availability of this new game on pre-order. And I could call this Indomitus Keeping Perspective. I could then be a bit Ferrus Manus or Highlander and call this video Indomitus Don't Lose Your Head. But I'd probably choose to call it Indomitus Thinking About the Impact of a Global Pandemic on this product. I've seen a lot of discussion online in various platforms, and 90% of this seems to be criticizing Games Workshop in some way around the ordering availability of the limited edition Indomitus box set. It's very easy to do. And when you have prominent voices taking that line and no counter opinion being offered, it's very easy for everyone else to get swept up in that tide of opinion. However, I am going to present a counter position to this kind of view that it's all rubbish, Games Workshop are terrible, dreadful, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to present you with a counter opinion in this video for you to consider. And as usual, I will do so in a objective as I can be, level-headed and non-verbose manner. And no R's will be rolled either, because I'm not a sociopath. And what I hope is you might be able to listen to this and put into perspective some of the things that are happening around your ability to get hold of, as in a pre-order of Indomitus 9th edition. I don't work for Games Workshop. I'm not financially affiliated in them in any way. Let's just say I'm an interested observer, and perhaps I've got a bit of experience of the world of business, and I hear things as well that might shed some better light onto this. And I'm also not interested here in grinding opinions. So that's what the purpose of this video. I'm going to split it into a couple of sections. I'm first going to go over a little bit of the history, talk about the online pre-ordering. I'm then going to talk about the pandemic itself, and I'm then going to go into a section at the end which you might call rumor control or putting it in perspective, where I'm going to take the information I do know, and we all know, the information I'm going to present to you, and present you a view of why I actually think this launch is going as it is. And I think just actually try to assuage you that, Games Workshop isn't trying to screw you all over with how they're launching Indomitus. Corporations are corporations. They are money-making machines. But at the same time, we are in the middle of a global pandemic. This is the first This is the first disease incident of this magnitude since the Spanish flu of 1918 and 1919, and it is important to remember that because we are not in a normal world right now. Right, let's start then with a quick overview of the history. So online pre-ordering went live on the 11th of July. So I'm filming this on the Sunday, so it's a day after. From what I'm hearing, Games Workshop's main website sold out in a matter of minutes. There was an order limit of 3 per customer, which is high when you have scarcity of stock, in my opinion. They'd reduce this, as in Games Workshop's web store, they'd reduce this from 6, which is the normal number they run at for a launch of this size. So that's a good step. Think about how people can buy more than they need and then resell. However, I still think 3 is too high. There's a good argument to have capped it at 2 or even 1. So yeah, that was the situation on Games Workshop's website. Independent online stockists sold out in a matter of tens of minutes, so demand was high across the board. Some retailers have run 2 order waves on the Saturday, so they had an AM slot and then a PM slot as well, and they split some of their stock or their allocation of Indomitus across these 2, basically to give people who are active in the morning and people who are active in the afternoon a chance at ordering. The stockists who have done that, and you know who you are, big thumbs up. That's a really good thing, thinking about your customers at a time like this. Right, so anyway, the flip side to this is it seems that demand is very high and the online pre-ordering is selling out quickly. Remember though, on the back of this, Games Workshop retail stores will be getting a significant number of copies of this game. I'm hearing numbers in the region of 30 to 60 per retail store. So in terms of this initial release, which is scheduled for the 25th of July, there are still opportunities to buy a copy of Indomitus at retail price without resorting to other locations. Let's now move on and talk about the background to the launch of 9th edition Indomitus. First and foremost, the launch of Indomitus has happened in the middle of the COVID-19 global pandemic. As we all know, and most people have probably been affected in at least some way by this, I know I certainly have, large numbers of businesses had to cease normal operations, either in factories or at retail outlets, and even in distribution at times, to steps enforced on them by government agencies to limit the spread of the coronavirus, and thereby reduce the number of people who got ill and ultimately died. Because at the moment, around, certainly in the Western world, about 1 in every 100 people who get it will succumb to it. So yeah, important stuff. What I have found out, and some of you may already know this because this isn't leaked or anything, this is available in the public domain. The original pre-order day for Indomitus was scheduled for June 6th, 2020. The final date was yesterday, which was the 11th of July 2020. That is a 5 calendar week delay. So clearly, something has happened to force Games Workshop to push back the launch of the 9th edition. June 6th day seems a little bit later than when they launched Dark Imperium, which was 8th edition, which I think was late May, if my memory serves me correctly. Although I might be wrong. I think it was about late May. That's when I seem to remember doing it. So it's still in the ballpark. But what we can see is there's been a 5-week delay in launching. And this is a big deal for Games Workshop. 9th edition, or Warhammer 40,000 and 9th edition, it's their flagship product. It'll be making them more profit than any other line. So to do this is a big step. Why have they done this? Well, it's obvious. It's as a consequence of the coronavirus lockdowns. And there's an international supply chain involved in the manufacture of this product. And there are probably tens, if not dozens of touch points where a delay can have occurred due to a lockdown. So yeah, they've not just done this for giggles. There is a serious consequence here of the coronavirus. In terms of what this actually translated into launch looking like, I've heard that leading independent stockists have only received 30% of the stock levels they would have seen for an edition launch of a game. And that 30%, that's the absolute best. It may actually be lower, so it could actually be 20% or so. What that means is they are understocked. Now, there have been some rumours going around that Games Workshop has not supplied as much stock to independent stockists as normal. I have no way of proving those one way or another. Could they have done it? Maybe. There'll be a balance there between the loss in revenue in giving a copy of Indomitus to a independent as opposed to selling it through their own channel, versus the effect that the reduced price point of selling it through the independent has on the chance of making a sale at all. I don't have the data. That'll be business confidential information, and Games Workshop will not share that publicly. So I don't know if that's true. It's not impossible. And, given the current state of play, that's a difficult call because on the one hand, Games Workshop has to perform itself as a business. On the other, if it starves its independence of stock too much, they could fail, and ultimately that will bite Games Workshop in the long term, because Games Workshop make a significant percentage of their revenue stream through the independent channels. So there's a difficult balance there, but that is what I've heard. So stock is definitely low, and the numbers I hear around GW selling out online very quickly, I wouldn't draw a similarity with necessarily, I suppose we could say, the Sisters of Battle limited edition box set. Adeptus Titanicus Grandmaster edition is another good one, although those products were less well known, whereas I think with Indomitus, Games Workshop knows what the demand looks like more. Anyway, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent there. But key point there, Games Workshop has had to delay the launch by 5 weeks due to the pandemic, and because of that, stock levels are significantly lower than they would have otherwise been if we had not had the pandemic. And that is particularly evident through the independent seller channels. So what else do we know about the current state of play with Indomitus? Firstly, a bit of rumour control, or rumours. Hopefully I won't get devoured by a xenomorph at this point of the video. I hear that there is going to be a second wave of Indomitus released sometime in August. Again, sticking with the information I've seen for the independent stockists, this will bring them to around 50% of a typical launch level availability. So if you take the allocation they've got for July and add it to August, it's going to give around 50%, best case, of the normal stock that they would have to launch a Games Workshop main system edition, i.e. 40k or Age of Sigmar. So that is a reality. I've seen a number of comments that have said, well, why didn't Games Workshop delay this release until they had enough stock to facilitate it? And the answer to that is twofold. Firstly, I just don't think it is a realistic proposition with the current pandemic situation. I don't think normal levels of stock are going to be achieved in a realistic time frame. So yeah, not happening. They have to act. They have to make a move. Second thing is related to global economics. Time is sales in retail. And if you aren't selling, you're not making money. That money that you don't sell in 1 month or 2 months from your customers, it will go elsewhere. So by delaying too long, they are going to lose sales. So there's that to factor out. There's a second element to that, which is that we are in the middle of an economic crisis that's affecting the entire globe. And Games Workshop is like a hobby company. They don't sell food. They don't sell essentials. If people's incomes are impacted by the effects of coronavirus and the lockdowns, the thing that will go from their budgets and their spending is things like spending on their luxuries, and Games Workshop models are one of those. So Games Workshop, they're a bit like a canary in a coal mine, so they are very vulnerable, in my opinion anyway, to an economic downturn. So when you combine that with just the sheer time lost in selling, Games Workshop are in a real use it or lose it situation at the moment. Every day they delay launching this is eroding off their bottom line. They have to make a move. They cannot wait. And it doesn't matter what financial reporting cycle a company is on, they cannot afford to wait at a time like this. So imperfect as it might be, they have to launch and they can't delay any longer. I think what they've done is they've drawn a graph and they've said, right, here's our availability per week and here is our estimated loss in sales. And they've just picked what the best point is. The consequence of that is it means there will be shortages of this product. So yeah, you've got to bear that in mind. A final thought, and this is another thing I've not really seen people talk about much, is Indomitus has been marketed as a limited run product. Fine, this is common. However, it is also the boxed starter set for their flagship game, 40k. Where is the final long-term box set? I don't know. Nobody's talked about that. But rest assured, that will be following. And I would suggest to you, on the back of all the other things I've told you about the disruption that GW has experienced, not unique to them as a company, loads of companies will have experienced this, that will have spilled over into whatever the final 9th edition starter set is that they are going to stock maybe over, I don't know, 2.5 years they normally run these games for, maybe 3 years. So we don't know what that looks like yet. And clearly, the pandemic must have disrupted the production and availability of that. So if you don't get this one because of stock shortages, don't forget, Games Workshop are going to make a follow-on to this, which it might not be quite as good, but it'll still be good value, in terms of the models you get per box. The box sets, they've always been good buys. You get loads of stuff compared to buying separate. So do remember that. Ask that question. What is the final long-term 9th edition starter set going to be? Because it's not Indomitus, I'll tell you that. So there you go, my thoughts on the pre-order launch of 9th edition Indomitus box set and contextualizing that in the framework of what is happening globally at the moment with the economy and the pandemic. It's very easy to criticize Games Workshop as a business, and a lot of people make a lot of money and get a lot of attention for doing so. Sometimes though, you've just got to take a step back from that and think, wait a minute, what are the actual facts? What does this look like from a point of view of the business? They've got to try and survive, and it could be tough times ahead. So yeah, just something to remember there when we're all wagging our finger at Games Workshop over the availability of this game. I hope you found that thought-provoking and insightful. As always, please do share your polite comments in the reply section. I'll be interested to hear as always. And if you are trying to get hold of an Indomitus box set, I wish you all the best. Good luck. But other than that, I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you next time, and goodbye.